Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from not the Commander's Corps studio, in case you didn't notice. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of one of my amazing patrons, Ryan, who's been supporting this channel as a general tier patron, and I truly couldn't do this without support from amazing patrons like Ryan. So again, Ryan, thank you so much. And for the personalized deck tech, Ryan chose Omnath Locus of all with a +1/+1 counter Hydra theme. A very spicy choice. Omnath Locus of all is a 4/4 Phyrexian elemental for basically Wooburg, except for the black mana symbol is Phyrexian black. If you lose unspent mana, the mana becomes black instead. Begin your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana in a combination of its colors and put it in your hand. If you don't reveal it, put it in your hand. So basically, hey, a giant mana piggy bank for you that essentially converts your mana to black if you don't use it. So yeah, just store up some mana, utilize that for maybe some giant X spells, maybe like Hydras, and also, sure, some extra card advantage in there, some also potential mana advantage for you too. So yeah, a crazy cool, crazy fun commander. And of course, a very budget-friendly commander, just 18 cents. In fact, this entire deck is incredibly budget-friendly at just $16.83 in total, not including shipping, not including basic lands, but you already have those. Regardless, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description. Every single card in it is 50 cents or less. Crazy budget-friendly, crazy fun times. Let's jump into it. And we're going to start things off with a splash with tech number 1, the Golden Pig, which is, of course, Gargos, Vicious Watcher, an 8/7 Hydra with Vigilance that just costs 6 mana. Hydra spells you cast cost 4 less to cast. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So if your things are targeted, great. Gargos is like, fight, take you out. Yeah, can take out basically any creature out there. I mean, the vast majority of 8 power, obviously. And also, perhaps more importantly, and why it's the Golden Pig, that reduction is huge. 4 mana less for all your Hydras. That is absurd, especially for some Hydras that maybe have X in their mana cost, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So it's like, hey, extra 4. Yeah, what's not to love about that? A crazy good card, definitely worthy of the title of Golden Pig. Next up, though, let's move on to attack number 2, regular ramping, because yeah, Gargos is amazing. We also need other ways to ramp, though, to make sure we've got a lot of mana for our lovely Hydras. First up, Wayfarer's Bauble, pay 2 tap, sacrifice, get a basic land to play tapped. Moving on, Font of Fertility, basically an enchantment version of Wayfarer's Bauble. Then we've got Rampant Growth, the OG ramp card, essentially. Go get any land, any basic land, put into play tapped. Edge of Autumn, exact same thing basically, but only if you've got 4 or fewer lands. And later in the game, you can cycle it away by sacrificing land, which is fantastic. Fertile Ground, a great enchantment. Just put on one of your lands and tap for 1 extra of any color. Lovely. Harrow, sacrifice 1 land, go get 2 basics and play untapped so you can utilize that mana right away. Roiling Regrowth, slightly worse version of it. Essentially, those lands do come into play tapped. Search for Tomorrow, a fantastic turn 1 place to spend 2 for a single green mana. We've got Springwood Druid, basically a Roiling Regrowth on a body. ETB, you get that effect. Then there's Migration Path, a fantastic explosive vegetation type card. Go get 2 basics for 4 mana, into play tapped, or you can cycle away for 2 if you need to. Vastwood Surge, another great way to essentially explosive vegetation, and also if you kick it for 4 mana, get 2 counters on all your creatures. So your Hydras, which are already great, get even larger. Speaking of large Hydras, though, let's move on to attack number 3. X marks the spot. Feral Hydra, a crazy fun card. Enters battlefield, X counters on it. Lovely. This can become absolutely massive. Again, we got so many ways to ramp. And also, if Gargos is in play, sure, an extra 4 counters for free. On top of that, pay 3, get a counter on it. Any player may activate this ability. You can make some friends at the table. There might be some scenarios where, like, hey, that player only has like 2 health left or whatever. I could, add extra counters and get this. There are going to be scenarios where you're actually going to be able to take players out because of this, if you're good at politicking. Moving on, Wildwood Scourge. Enters battlefield, X counters on it. Whenever 1 or more counters are put on another non-Hydra creature you control, you get a counter on this. So, hey, if you're getting counters on something like, say, Omnath, cool, get some more counters on this. Moving on, Ren's Run Hydra. Enters battlefield, X counters on it. Also, Reinforce X. For X green, discard to get X counters on target creature. So another flexible card for you. Genesis Hydra, crazy fun. Whenever you cast a spell, real X cards to the top of your library, you can put a non-land permanent card mana value X less one on the battlefield, then shuffle the rest in your library, and just battlefield the X counters on it. So yeah, just basically a massive mana dump to be like, hey, I got a big creature, and also get something else off the top of my library for free. Maybe another Hydra. Moving on, Savage Born Hydra, double strike. Yikes. X counters on it, pay 1, and Gruul, get a counter on it, activate to cast a sorcery. So basically, put mana into it, and then also later, put more mana into it to make it even bigger of a threat. Next up, Gyrus, Waker of Corpses, a 0/0 that enters with X counters on it based on the number of mana you spent to cast it, essentially. Whenever it attacks, you may exile target creature card with lesser power from your graveyard. If you do, create a token's copy of the card, tap then attacking, exile at the end of combat. So you can get some of your Hydras back as well. Then we've got Stump Squall Hydra, X green, 1/1, enters with a battlefield, distribute X counters among it and any number of commanders, so your commander can also get quite massive as well if you need to. Moving on, though, of course, we're not done with our Hydras just yet, so tactic number 4, count on me. Grakmaw, Skyclave, Ravager, 0/0 Hydra, enters the battlefield with 3 counters on it. Whenever creature control dies, if it had a counter on it, you get a counter on this. And yeah, a lot of our Hydras, of course, have counters. Whenever it dies, you get an XX black and green Hydra creature token where X the number of counters on it, so essentially replaces itself, which is quite nice. Moving on, Scourge of Skola Vale, a 0/0, a trampling Hydra, enters with 2 counters on it, tap sacrifice a creature, get a number of counters on it equal to the sacrifice creature's toughness, which again can become quite massive. So if another one of your creatures is going to get taken out, just be like, okay, I'll sacrifice that, and then all of a sudden this is even more massive for me. Moving on, Bristling Hydra, enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy. You can use that energy to get a counter on it and give it hexproof until end of turn, so some nice protection there. Domesticated Hydra, X, green, Monstrosity X. As long as it's monstrous, it has trample. So again, doesn't get those counters right away, but you can utilize that monstrosity to get counters on it and also give it trample. Then there's Ulash, the Hate Seed, enters the battlefield, they counter on it for each other red creature you control, and a counter on it for each other green creature you control, which can be quite a lot. Pay 1, remove a counter from it, 1 damage to our creature, or make a sapling if you really need to. Then there's Zaxera, the Exemplary. This is so good. And again, another candidate for Golden Pig, but just, it's very good. 2/3 Death Touch, tap, add 2 mana of any one color. Whenever you cast a spell with X at its mana cost, you get a 0/0 green Hydra creature token, get X counters on it. So again, Hydras can make even more Hydras. Then there's Hero's Bane, enters with 4 counters on it, pay 2 green, put X counters on it where X is its power. So basically, double its power, double it again and again. Yeah, this can hit quite hard. Briar Hydra, a really good one as well. 6/6 Trample Domain, deals combination to a player, put X counters on target creature you control, X number of basic land types among lands you control. Yeah, again, we've got a 5-color deck. We've got plenty of ways to go get lands. We've got ways to make sure we have all 5 basics. That can be a lot of counters each time. Speaking of a lot of things, Hydra Broodmaster, XX and a green Monstrosity X. When it comes monstrous, create X, XX green Hydra creature token. So this can become absolutely massive, even more massive than it already is, and also make you a massive army too. So have fun with that. Speaking of fun, Nessian Wild's Ravager. Let's see if one of your opponents actually wants to pay the tribute. Tribute 6, as a creature in the battlefield, an opponent of your choice may place 6 counters on it. Enters the battlefield, the tribute wasn't paid. You may have it fight another target creature. So basically, you're like, okay, 6 damage to any of your creatures. I can take any of your creatures out essentially if I need to. Or, hey, make this into a 12/12. Thank you. Then there's Ornreef Hydra, 5/5 Trample Landfall. Whatever land is battlefield your control, you get a counter on it. If that land is a forest, 2 counters instead. That can be quite a lot. Again, you got so many ways to ramp, so many ways to get lands. This can become quite massive quite quickly. Moving on, though, let's move on to tag number 5, Counterplay, because of course, we've got ways to impact our Hydras, impact the counters that are going to be on them. First up, Conclave Mentor. If one or more counters you put on a creature control, that many +1 are put on instead. This can basically double up any singular +1 counter effects. Just giving an additional one, it's quite nice. On top of that, when this dies, you gain life equal to its power. So if it had counters, cool, gain even more life. Simic Ascendance, a very easy win condition if you can do it properly. 1 green and a blue, get a counter to creature control. Whenever one or more counters are put on a creature control, put that many growth counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, if it's destroying more counters on it, you win the game. Yeah, again, you've got certain X mana Hydras were like, hey, X counters, you're just like, X counters on this too, and all of a sudden, as long as it stays in play, you win. Thrumming Bird can be another way to help out with your counters. Flying 1/1 deals counter to player, proliferate. So again, a free repeatable way to nearly always be able to get extra counters on your things. Then we've got Winding Constrictor. One or more counters we place on creature control, that many +1 are put out instead. If you get one or more counters, 1 more plus. Anyways, basically just, hey, double up the number of individual instances of +1 counters, or yeah, just an extra one for, those X1s as well. Good Fortune Unicorn, another creature in its battlefield control, you get a counter on it. So cool, free extra counters for any of your creatures coming into play. What's not to love about that? Speaking of which, Grumgully, basically the exact same thing, except for non-humans. yeah, your Hydras are not human, so congratulations, you're getting a lot of counters on them. And speaking of counters, Rich Carpeme Renegade loves when your creatures have counters. Enters the battlefield, you get 2 counters essentially on 2 creatures, or 1 counter on 2 creatures, I should say. On top of that, each creature control they counter on it has tap add green, so all of a sudden you're getting all these creatures in play with all these counters. You tap them for more mana to play even more creatures with even more counters. What's not to love about that? Then we've got Tyrannid Prime. Has evolved, so basically when a creature comes into play, if it's bigger than it, either toughness or power, you get a counter on it. And on top of that, other creatures you control have evolved. So yeah, you're getting bigger and bigger creatures out. All of a sudden, all your creatures are getting more and more counters on them. Brawl the Hulklade. This can get absurd in absolutely no time. Pay Simic colors, tap, double each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. You know that creature over there that's already got like 20 counters on it, now it has 40. Good luck. Speaking of good luck, Forgotten Ancient. Whenever any player casts a spell, not just you, not just your opponents, anyone, get a counter on this. Give your upkeep, distribute those counters however you see fit. This can just be an absurd amount of counters going to where they need to go. Juniper Order Druid, a creature that can become quite massive and can help other things get even bigger as well. Another creature comes into play under your control, you get a counter on that creature and a counter on this one as well. Then there's Loyal Guardian. Distribute those counters to all the other creatures. So generous of you, Loyal Guardian. 4/4 trample. Beginning of combat, your turn. You control your commander, you get a counter on each creature you control. Congratulations, everyone. Everyone gets larger every single turn. And one that can take advantage of that, Hamza, Guardian of Irration. 5/5. It's going to cost one less to cast for each creature control they counter on it. So it's going to cost just 2 mana essentially. On top of that, creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature control they counter on it. This is absurd. This can make it so that, again, like Argos, you can actually reduce the cost of your Hydras down to nearly nothing. And also with those X-Spell Hydras, it's like, oh yeah, just say free X counters on it based on the number of creatures I've been playing with counters on them. What's not to love about that? Next up, let's move on to attack number 6, Countdown, because yeah, we've got some ways to work with our counters and also dig down too. Sorcery for 2 mana, we've got Contentious Plan, Proliferate, draw a card. So again, replace this and also get more counters on your things. Bread for the Hunt, 3 mana enchant. Whenever creature control they counter on it deals combat to your player, you may draw a card. That's an absurd amount of card draw throughout the game for you because basically all your creatures are going to have counters on them. And Inspiring Call can help with that too. Instant for 3 mana, draw a card for each creature control they counter on it. They gain indestructible on a turn. 3 mana, protect your entire team and draw 10 plus cards, whatever it is. Good luck to your opponents. Steady Progress, instant speed, proliferate, draw a card as well. Armorcraft Judge, a great ETB for us. ETB, draw a card for each creature with a counter on it. That is going to be quite a lot. Azuri, Stalker Seer, speaking of a great ETB. ETB you can pay 3. If you do proliferate twice, you're going to want to do that. Because when you do, you also get to draw a card whenever you're proliferating. So with this, or with its other effects, the other effects out there that have proliferate for you, have fun with that. Tezzer's Gambit, speaking of that, draw 2, proliferate, a very effective card for, again, 3 and 2 life, or 4 mana in total. Thunderous Snapper, 4 mana in total. Whenever you cast a spell, convert mana cost 5 or greater, draw a card. The vast majority of our Hydras either cost 5 or more, or again, our X spells, which can meet that requirement, draw a lot of cards thanks to this Turtle Hydra, which apparently is a thing. Vivisurgence Insight, draw 3, proliferate for 5 mana. Yeah, that can give us a lot of value. And finally, the Swarm Lord, speaking of value, enters the battlefield with 2 counters on it for each time you cast your commander zone for the command zone in this game. That can be quite a bit. And also, whenever a creature you control, they counter on it dies, draw a card. That's basically, again, all of your creatures at some point are probably going to get counters on them, especially your Hydras. Have fun drawing cards to replace them when you need to. Moving on, tactic number 7, Count on You. We're going to be counting on Cankerbloom. Pay 1, sacrifice to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or, yes, proliferate, get even more juicy counters. Despark, get rid of and exile a permanent mana value 4 or greater. So yeah, get rid of it permanently, essentially. Serum Snare, this one's going to bounce any non-land permanent, but if you bounce a small non-land permanent, mana value 3 or less, proliferate as well. So again, more counters. Carnivorous Canopy, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Again, if its mana value is 3 or less, proliferate as well, so some extra value for there too. Sylphus Cliff Lever, this one can actually protect your stuff first. Exile it, creature control again, indestructible out of turn, so a great way to protect your team. Or on the backside, we've got Deadly Vanity. Choose a creature planeswalker, destroy all others. So a great panic button for you to be like, I don't like what's going on here. Let's just keep this in play and take out everything else. Crush Contraband is going to be great most times. Hey, choose one or both. Exile artifact, exile enchantment. Most of the time you get both of those to permanently get rid of some things. Cleansing Nova, again, another great panic button for you. Choose one to destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So again, there are going to be times where it's like, yeah, I've got the best army out here. Let's just keep those creatures in play. And all of a sudden, let's get rid of everything else. All the other noise is gone. Akroma's Vengeance, get rid of everything essentially. Artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, or cycle it away if you don't need to do that. Decree of Pain. Yeah, mana is not really an issue with this kind of a deck. Again, Omnath can help us with that. 8 mana for, hey, destroy all creatures. Let's just wipe things out. And also, by the way, they can be regenerated, and I draw a card for each creature stored this way. So I get to replace my hand and then some, and all of you are set back to the Stone Age. Or I can cycle it away to give all creatures -2/2 if I really need to. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this deck. And of course, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.